Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name's Jeff.
Dang it.
My name is Gabe.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, Jeff.
Yes.
How are you doing today?
I'm very giggly.
Good.
Not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. So I noticed something between last week and this week. Mm-hmm. A few weeks ago, we talked about The Witch is Dead, which is a one-page RPG.
Oh, right, yes.
And I found out after listening to some podcasts, I found out that was made by our evil twin podcast, Hardy Dice Friends. The host of that, one of the two hosts of that, Grant Hewitt, is actually the creator of that. He's made that. He's also made a whole slew of other one-page RPGs. Just a few days ago, I found one online. Somebody posted one on Reddit, and it was this. It was an RPG where you play as a criminal bear. You have two stats. One is criminal, the other is bear. So I was telling my wife about these, and
oh my goodness,
I thought this was hilarious. And then I listened to last week's episode of Hardy Dice Friends, and he started talking about how he made that RPG. And I was like, huh. So then I looked it up, and sure enough, he made all these one-page RPGs.
He made The Witch is Dead?
He made The Witch is Dead.
That was a good time. I played that not too long ago and had a great time with it. We ended up burning down most of the village.
Okay.
But I take that as, as bonus.
Cool.
I was a rabbit with the power to create fire, so I took pride in my work.
Pretty cool. So yeah, I think that was really cool. So if anybody out there has not yet, I recommend you go check out Hardy Dice Friends. They're a pretty good podcast, similar concept to our own, and that's good. Mm-hmm. I sent in some questions. They answered two of them. Nice. And it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And just because they're British doesn't mean that they're evil.
Well, I know. Don't get ahead of yourself.
I know Star Wars says to the contrary, but
now hang on a minute. We revolted against them. Remember, that was for a reason. I don't remember what that reason was. I'm pretty sure it was because they are evil.
I'm not sure if Hardy Dice Friends are British, but
I think in one of the episodes they mentioned living in London. Okay, so
all right. Well,
again, I'm sure that making some generalization about British people is just as I've heard of people in other countries hearing Americans and thinking we all sound like we're from Texas. And
sure.
As an American, it's like, no. We don't sound at all the same.
I mean, we're Midwesterners, and that's its own little thing. Yeah. And I understand that because some Midwestern people do sound kind of Southern.
Kind of, yeah.
There's people in Michigan that are on the more redneck side of the spectrum.
Yeah. During my time I lived in Tennessee for 5 years, and during that time, I found myself occasionally starting to talk slightly Southern, but only when I was talking to people from South.
It's when you sort of adopt other people's mannerisms and things like that. I once started talking British in an accent. I had no intention in doing so. And didn't even realize that the other person in the conversation, it was a conversation I came in on a conversation of two people. Mm-hmm. One of them was using a British accent. Yeah. The other one was not. My mind immediately assumed that this person was teasing that person using a British, someone was using a British accent for comedic effect. Yeah. Because that's what I do sometimes.
Okay.
I mean, at least that's what I would do sometimes. And I found myself using a British accent to be I forget what the context of the conversation was, but I remember talking a British accent, leaving that conversation and realizing, that person might have actually have been British. And, I try not to think about it all the time, but of course I think about it all the time and feel a fool.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah. Yes, very. What's his name again? I'm sorry.
Grant Hewitt.
That I very much enjoyed. The Witch is Dead. A friend of mine DM'd it for us, and we had a pretty good time.
Okay. And sorry, I just looked up the other gentleman on Hardy Dice Friends' name is Chris. I wasn't able to find his last name, but I know from the podcast that he's very tall. So sure. Tall Chris.
Tall Chris.
Grant Hewitt and Tall Chris.
Chris Tollingson.
Yes. All right, Jeff. So do you want to go ahead and get into the episode?
Yeah, let's get on track.
Okay. Well, before we get into questions, I have a little story to tell you, Jeff.
These are always good. Go ahead.
It's about an adventurer named Jeff Jeffington.
Yes.
And he...
It's a handsome name.
I don't know where this is going, but he stumbled upon the Dragon's Hoard.
I mean,
All right, so today's item was submitted by Nicholas P. via email. If somebody wanted to submit an item to the Dragon's Hoard, Jeff, where would they do so?
Well, they could probably send it through our email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com.
There you go. So the item that he sent in is a ring called the Ring of Beholder's Dreams.
Ooh.
Now, I think this is a really neat item. This magic item is a ring made of silver with, instead of a gem, a closed beholder eye stalk eye. So the eye from a beholder's eye stalk on the end of this ring. When the ring is put on, the eye opens and the ring turns from silver to gold. Wearing this item, the wearer, when they go to sleep, they will have the dream properties of a beholder. Now, for anyone who owns or has read Volo's Guide to Monsters, they explain in there that beholders have this ability when they sleep. The way that beholders reproduce is when they go to sleep, they dream of another beholder. And when they wake up, that beholder will have come to life.
Okay.
So
isn't it that beholders, like, when they reproduce, they're basically making copies of themselves?
Well, in other editions of the game, yes. I think especially with Volo's Guide to Monsters, I think beholders they've changed the lore on beholders a little bit.
Okay.
But in other editions, yes, beholders, whenever they made a duplicate, it was an exact copy of themselves. And they hated anything that was different from them. So, like, if it wasn't one of their direct spawn, they, like, hated it.
Right, yeah, because they were incredibly xenophobic.
Yeah. They're also incredibly vain. So, anyway, they'll wear this ring when they go to sleep. When they dream, their dream will have an effect on the real world. What their dream is about or involves determines the effect. When they go to sleep, roll on the table below to figure out the effect. So then it lists this, there's this little list of 9 effects. Well, 8 effects, and then 9 and 10, the DM decides what happens. But I think these are kind of interesting. So the first one, when you roll a 1, the wearer dreams about themselves. And when they wake up, there will be a completely black shadow version of themselves that will try to kill them. This shadow will have the same stats and equipment as the ring wearer. So that's bad.
Yeah,
that's very bad.
That could.
I mean, keep in mind
problems.
It's I assume it would be the whole party against the one. But,
sure, yeah.
But still, that's
well, I mean, depends on where you went to sleep.
Oh my goodness! What if the shadow is also wearing that ring, and the shadow goes to sleep?
Oh wow! And then there's a shadow of the shadow. That's another thing.
But the shadow of the shadow would try to kill the shadow. So maybe
you just use a sleep spell on the shadow. There it is. Problem solved.
Well, no, but then it would just create another one.
Right. You would use a...
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Use a sleep spell on the shadow. The shadow would make a shadow of itself, and then they would fight its shadow, and then cast a sleep spell on that shadow.
So...
And then I mean, like, he doesn't say here what other properties does the shadow have? Is it always going to exist? Like, if you don't kill it, can it keep going? Like,
if it kills you, does it go adventuring with the rest of your party?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't say anything that the shadow is evil. Maybe it just like inherently needs to kill you so that it can assume your existence and live your life. So I mean, like, other than killing you, it has done nothing wrong.
Wow. That's yeah.
It's just that's its existence, and that's what it's born to do.
It's doing its purpose.
Right.
Its purpose in life. Who are we to judge what its purpose in life is?
And I mean, okay, so it has the same equipment as you too. Is that shadow equipment? If you destroy it, do you get to keep duplicates of your equipment?
All of your gear to the wearer of this ring. And then when they go to sleep, just sleep like 10 nights in a row until they have that shadow, and then everybody gang up and kill the shadow, and then sell all the gear.
There you go.
Man, this is a pretty awesome item.
I would imagine that by the end of the day, anything that the shadow was or is or has would be gone.
Right.
But,
and of course, the DM, is the final arbiter of everything. Yada yada yada.
Or be like in Scott Pilgrim, where he just kind of like
they become best friends.
They become friends. He's like, yeah, he's actually a pretty nice guy. We have a lot in common.
Yes. All right, so that was number 1. The wearer dreams about themselves and then creates a shadow version of themselves that tries to kill them. Number 2, the wearer dreams about money and wealth, and for every 10 copper, they convert into a silver piece. For every 10 silver, they convert into a gold, and for every 10 gold, they convert into a platinum. So this doesn't really seem to really make anything better or worse. It just kind of converts your money into the smallest denominations, or to the smallest number of coins.
Yeah, it's like a banker in the form of a dream.
Yeah. So considering the first one is explicitly bad and this one is just kind of flat neutral, I would say maybe bump this one up a bit. Maybe even have it create money. Of course, that's ripe for abuse, but
Sure.
If there's going to be something as powerful as the first one, maybe the second one should be similarly powerful, but in a good way.
Right, yeah.
All right, and then the third one, the wearer dreams about blood. And when they wake up until the next long rest, they feel weak and have disadvantage on all rolls. This is
another bad one.
Once again, very bad. But then number 4, the wearer dreams about spells and magic, and when they wake up, if they are a spellcaster, they can cast a spell 1 level higher than the spell they currently have. If they are not a spellcaster, they can use a level 1 wizard or sorcerer spell. Okay. This is a little vague, a little more vague than it could be. It could be that if they can cast 4th level spells, now they can cast 5th level spells or a 5th level spell.
Okay.
It could just be that whatever spells they already have are cast at 1 level higher, which I think is pretty powerful, but kind of in keeping with the negative effects.
Sure.
I think that's kind of cool. So like any fireballs you have are cast as a 4th level spell instead of a 3rd.
Yeah.
Magic missile becomes cast as a 2nd level spell. These are
do a bit more damage.
That wouldn't be bad. I think giving them access to different, like a higher level of spells, I think that has a lot of repercussions that I think are beyond the scope of this item. But there's some potential there. Number 5, the wearer dreams of their party, and when they wake up, everybody in the party has the effect of the spell Bless for that day.
Yeah, and that's
pretty good.
That's pretty good, and then that lasts all day.
Yeah,
it's Bless for 24-hour Bless.
Yeah. Now, is that worth having a shadow that tries to kill you? I don't know. Well, that's up for the group to decide. Number 6, the wearer dreams of monsters, and when they wake up, there will be 1 random monster with a CR equal to the party level.
Okay, that's another
tough one.
That's worse. That's I guess worse than the player duplicate one, because you're
theoretically, I think it's even.
Okay.
Theoretically.
So the CR for 3 5th level players.
Well, so they would be they're a 5th level party.
Yeah.
So this would be a CR 5, like a 5th level monster.
Okay.
Which I think in theory is the same as 1 5th level player.
Okay.
I guess. Huh. So number 7, the wearer dreams of strength, agility, and healthiness. And when they wake up for that day, they have advantage on all strength, dexterity, and constitution-related rolls. I imagine this might also include attack rolls.
Okay.
If so, it would be in keeping with the disadvantage on all rolls that the previous number gave them. So that's powerful. Again, whether it's even with the others, that's up for debate. And then number 8, the wearer dreams about friendship and companions. And when they wake up for that day, they will have a random familiar. But when they go to sleep the next day, it will be gone. I think a list of potential familiars might be helpful.
Right.
Because, is that like a cat? Or is that like, you have an imp?
Or like a pseudo-dragon or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, pseudo-dragon. That'd be cool to wake up and have a buddy pseudo-dragon for the day. I just wouldn't go to sleep after that, to be honest.
Sure. And then what? 9 and 10 is...
9 and 10, the DM decides what the dream is about and what happens because of it.
Sure.
I think you'd probably agree with me that this honestly seems more like a cursed item than a regular item.
Yeah, because there are a few things that are benefits, but it feels like
at least half are real big detriments.
Yeah, that definitely feels like something that it'd be like a cursed item that wouldn't necessarily be easy to identify or to figure out exactly what it does. Like, it could be something a party member stumbles upon, sees it, and says, "Oh, this is obviously magical and cool. I should put it on. Oh, it turns color when I put it on. Nice." Right. Like maybe I don't know. Maybe it's it'll give me like a spell per day or something like that. And then they're like, "Well, can't figure it out today. I might as well sleep on it." And then they have a dream, and the DM's like, "Okay." Like the DM rolls a dice and is like, "Oh, you you have a dream and you see yourself. Okay, that's kind of weird. It's kind of like an out-of-body experience. That's sort of, I mean, you've experienced those in the past because of whatever. And okay, now your dream just kind of dissolves into some weird thing about climbing a mountain, whatever. All right, you wake up and there's a shadow version of yourself. Roll initiative. Like, oh, okay. Like, they might not realize that it had anything to do with the ring, and they might still wear the ring and keep having these dreams and think that there's something else going on. And so it could be like a neat little, sort of like a cursed item that adds a little something to the...
Yeah, I would say in general, if you toned down the advantages and disadvantages, it would make a really cool cursed item. Just like weird things happen to you while you're wearing it. Maybe you can't take it off. And, so like maybe there's even a quest around like how to either get rid of this ring or stop my character from dreaming about this weird stuff that then becomes real.
Right, yeah. It could just like the player becomes, like an insomniac because he doesn't want to dream anymore. He's got to take certain like potions or drugs or something to keep him from dreaming.
Or he's an elf and he gives the finger to everybody else.
Or it's a warforged and
yes.
So this is like, well, this is a nice ring.
Yeah, so I think this is a really neat item, but needs a little bit of work before it's ready for use in every campaign.
But no, I do like the idea of a ring that makes you dream that causes crazy things to happen.
Yeah.
But especially like beholders, I like aberrations a lot.
Yeah,
beholders and mind flayers and like aboleths, like the Lords of Madness.
Lords of Madness, yeah.
Lords of Madness. That was a 3.5 book. That's one of my personal favorites.
Good book.
Aberrations, like by nature, are very alien.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I think they're really cool.
There's a feat in that book that aberrations can take that makes it so that you no longer have to eat a specific thing. Your body is basically able to metabolize any organic matter. Okay. Doesn't matter if it is just straight up garbage or wood. You just like eat a block of wood. I'm good. So
it's something like an elithid would take, so he didn't have to eat brains.
I suppose so. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's more of like a feat. Yeah, it's like you're using a feat to not have to eat a brain every once in a while. Yes. That sort of thing. It's like kind of just want some Thai food. But I have to eat brains.
Yeah,
only there was some way.
Right. I love eating, so although I wouldn't, I don't like the idea of eating garbage. I would like to just be able to just eat anything because I love the sensation of eating.
Yeah, the tactile, just nom nom.
Yeah. And I mean, to be able to eat whatever you want and not suffer health wise because of it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I love spicy food, but it just doesn't do good for my stomach, so I would take a feat to be able to eat spicy food again.
There you go.
That's worth it.
All right, do you want to go ahead and get into some questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Our first question comes from Kai on Reddit, and she asks, should I screw over the party if it's something my character would do?
Short answer, no. Long answer, no. Longer, serious answer. It really depends on what you're doing, like what it is that's screwing over the party, and it depends on how the rest of the group feels. But just think of it this way. Here's the simplest way I can put this. If what you're doing is taking away from the fun of the other players of the group, you should not do it.
Right.
You are the problem. I don't want to tell anybody how they should or shouldn't have fun.
Right.
But again, if the rest of your party is having less fun because of your fun, you aren't a good fit for the group, and you should find a group that is more in keeping with what you are looking for in a game.
Yeah, at least be aware of what you're doing and trying not to make everybody else's experience crappy.
Right. And there's a lot of different ways that this can articulate. Probably one of the most common ways that it does is people that make a character, they join a group, their character's a rogue, and so then they think, okay, we just got treasure. Well, I'm just going to make a sleight of hand roll. Now, a quarter of the treasure goes directly into my pocket. Hey, guys, let's split up this, 1,500 gold. It wasn't 2,000. No, you were wrong. Let's split up this 1,500 gold among the five of us.
Sure.
Now, on one hand, that's like, haha, that's goofy or whatever. But this is very dependent on the edition as well. If you're playing a game like 3rd edition or 4th edition, where the money directly translates into how powerful your character is and what challenges you should be able to face.
Right.
What you're doing is you are making the rest of your group suffer mechanically.
Right, yeah.
So that your character can be better.
Yeah. Like your party will be less, like won't have as many abilities as a whole. Like they won't be as strong.
Right. And I mean, not just that, but like I really enjoy getting treasure as a player. I enjoy getting magic items.
Sure.
If I get more of it, that's really cool because I get to have more fun with my character. Mm-hmm. And if you are taking that away from me so that you can have more fun, you're not the kind of player that I want to play with.
Right. Yeah. At that point, like it's not just the character stealing from the other character. It's the player stealing part of the experience from the other player.
Right. And I mean, I understand that treasure isn't everything, power isn't everything, but like, again, it's fun. I have fun when I get treasure. Mm-hmm. So if someone is directly taking that away so that they can have more on a meta level, they're being a jerk to me.
Yeah.
And so when you use the excuse, it's what my character would do. No, I'm sorry. That is not a good excuse for doing something that is going to upset another player.
Yeah.
Because let me in on a little secret. You made that character.
Right.
That character exists solely within your mind. If you wanted to, you could make that character do anything you want to. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm all for integrity when it comes to fiction. I'm all for characters acting in accordance with their character, even to their detriment sometimes. But again, when it impacts someone else's enjoyment, I'm sorry, but my enjoyment is more important to me than your character's integrity.
Sure.
And I think it should be more important to you that the group have a good time so that you can continue playing with that character and have a good time with everybody. When the whole group is having fun, that's awesome. Like, that's so cool. I've never been in a group where one player was not having fun and I felt like, man, this is the greatest.
Right, exactly. Yeah, if you know, even if the other players don't care that you're stealing from so-and-so, like if that one person is not having a good time because of it, you should definitely like rethink that. That's
exactly.
Like, at the very least, maybe the DM should step in and then do something about it, maybe, but I mean,
right.
like,
and like, I'm not saying that you can't just kind of like it's fun to play with the character that's a jerk. Mm-hmm. It's not fun to play with the player that's a jerk. Yeah,
so you gotta just keep an eye on that. Make sure that you're not becoming the player who does stupid stuff.
Right.
You're like having that character that does is sort of like the thief, and it's kind of funny, and it's like haha, like the paladin turns around and sees the rogue with his coin purse, and he's like, oh, you rascal, and snatches it away from him, and the rogue is like, oh no, you dropped this. Here, I was picking it up for you. Right. Yeah. Like it's more of like a running gag sort of thing. Fine. Like keep it at that, and then the rogue can actually steal from NPCs or whatever if that's really what they want to do.
Or if your character has a reason for it.
Sure. Like if the rogue is stealing from everybody that isn't actively holding onto their coin purse, they're just taking everything that they find, but they're doing it because like maybe they have a sick family member back home, or they're trying to save up to save their town or something like that, and that's why they went out adventuring. And then if they go and steal from one of the other party members and they get caught, and maybe they'll have like a little conversation about it, like, oh, why did you steal from me? And it's like, oh, because I have to save so and so, and they're like, oh, all right, well, give that back, but we can do something like maybe we'll make an adventure to go back and help your family or something like that. Make it interesting.
Right. Don't do it just because.
Right.
Unless you have been given like express permission to do so.
Sure. And yeah, don't do it unless you make it interesting for everybody else.
Right.
Just try to avoid it.
Yeah. And I think this is a good example of why I think that money works better as an abstract storytelling concept rather than a mechanical concept. Like if money didn't impact what amount of power my character was allowed to have, if it was just something within the story, mm-hmm. I would have almost no problem with a player stealing money from the rest of the players. Right. As long as I knew I would still have the same amount of options available to my character.
Sure, yeah.
But like, I've had a discussion about this with people, and there's always the people that like seriously defend their ability to be a jerk to the rest of the party, like specifically stealing money from the rest of the party.
And I mean, there could be other examples too, like even just like like backstabbing or like conspiring against them. There could be even more serious things like they work with the enemy and things like that.
Right. Well, with money though, I've had people say like, oh, well, if your character didn't roll high enough to know that I was stealing, then you're metagaming. And it's like, no. You don't get to turn this around and say that I'm the problem because I, the player, think that you, the player, are being a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, no. That's a complete. I'm not having an issue with what the character did. I'm having an issue with what the player did.
Right. Yeah. Like, anyway,
it's sorry, but yeah, there are other ways, and I think anything that is not like money related, I think has a lot more potential. If one of the players is working with the bad guy, that's so cool. And you know why it's so cool? Because that is going to lead to more game.
Sure. Yeah. That's
more fun is going to be had because it has created more drama.
Yeah.
Just like taking something that someone else wants, that's different.
Yeah. That's an example of something that could be more interesting. And if it's more interesting, even if it puts my character in danger, my character's always in danger. That's right. The point.
That is the game.
It's exciting.
If I come to a session and my character is never in danger for that session, well, I don't think anything happened.
Right.
Session.
Yeah. It's like, well, that was sort of one of those, that was a filler episode, sort of thing. But yeah, so like, as long as you're still making it fun and interesting for everybody else, like if you're not taking that away from somebody, it's fine. But
and like this is going to depend hugely on the group.
Sure,
some groups, as boggling to my mind as it may be, some groups are fine with players stealing from other players.
Those are the same groups with the DMs that have a player kill count.
A kill count, yeah. But I would say a lot of groups won't. So unless you know that it's okay with the rest of the group, don't do that. Now, the reason at the beginning of this question I still said like the answer was no, I said it twice, in fact, it's because your reasoning should never be because it's what my character would do. Because like I said earlier, you made the character.
Right. Because that just feels like a blanket excuse.
It is a crutch that bad players use to justify their selfish actions.
Right, yeah. Like, and again, like you could make it more interesting by having more than just that as a reason, like if that's something your character would do, why are they doing that? Like, why is it? Bring that up. If you do get caught or if somebody questions it, bring it up. Like, say, like, this is why this character is doing this. This is, and then maybe the DM can build on that and make it interesting for everybody else.
Yeah. Think of it this way. Let's say you're one of those players who always plays rogues and you will defend to the death your ability to steal from the rest of the party because it's what your character would do. Okay, let's say I play a paladin and I decide that without any provocation, I'm going to kill your character because you go against my faith. That's what my character would do. My character would just straight up murder you in the middle of the street because he's a paladin and you have gone against his faith.
Sure.
That's what my character would do.
Yeah.
Is that any more justified? I'll tell you right now, the answer is no. It is not justified.
Yeah.
Because you are sitting at this table with these, hopefully, friends of yours to play the game and have fun with the characters you have made. If your actions are going to lead to your character not being able to be a part of that party, or someone else's character to not be able to be a part of that party, that's a problem. So even if it is just something like, oh, I stole, some money out of the pile. If in real life I had a friend who stole from me, if I found this out, I would not ever associate with that friend again. Sure, I may not know it, but if I ever did find out, I would never again associate with that person. Yeah. If you steal from my character in the group, even if I don't know it now, you are setting up a ticking time bomb that someday, because this isn't going to stop. This isn't the only time you're ever going to steal from the group. If there is a time further along the line where I find out that your character has stolen from my character, guess what? Either your character is not going to be able to be a part of this group anymore, or my character is not going to be able to be a part of this group anymore.
Yeah.
And that is a problem.
Yeah, if you're bringing up the scenario where, there were the Baldur's Gate games, and there were like the characters that if you had them in the party together, they would like every once in a while they would start kind of like bickering with each other.
Right.
They had opposing alignments, and there would be a part in the game that if you had them in the party for too long and a certain thing happened, or you had them in a party during a certain event, one of them would just up and leave.
Wow, yeah.
And then you just lose that character along with all the equipment they had on them because you didn't have a chance to take that. Like you weren't like you didn't know you had to strip them down just in case they decided to up and leave.
Oh man, if they had that beholder ring, they could have twice as many equipments.
But I mean, like I hated that. I was like, shoot, I haven't saved in a while. Now I have to go back like an hour and like, stop that from happening. Like I never wanted that to happen. And I don't think anybody wants that to happen to where like, like you never want a player to leave.
Absolutely.
Because that could very well happen too.
And you can always find a way for your, again, you're in control of your character. You can find a way for your character to continue to associate with someone who steals from the party. Yeah. But in real life, I wouldn't associate with someone like that. If this is a person that I am daily handing over my life to, if I am relying on this person to save my life, and I find out that they are stealing from me, I'm going to be less likely to want to associate with
them. Yeah. If you're going to trust somebody to be in battle with you in life or death situations, and then you find out that they're stealing from you, that's gonna cause some problems. It's
just, I've said before that like I'm all for inter-party conflict, ding. But if it's an issue between the players, then that's not something that I would put up with. So again. Some groups are going to be okay with this. Mm-hmm. All the power to them. I hope they have a great time stealing from each other. Whatever. Go for it. I was just a little condescending there, but I don't mean to dismiss that.
Sure, yeah.
But if you have not found out that it is okay with your group, do not do this.
Yeah. Just tread lightly.
Tread lightly. And just remember, you're not the only one who wants to have fun.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. There's definitely people who just love this sort of stuff and and that's fine. In fact, we might even sound like, grumpy old men or something like
I guess.
But
get off my lawn. Sorry, there was some kids on my lawn.
But just make sure everyone's still having fun.
Yeah.
Be careful. I don't know.
Let's go on to the next question.
All right, yes.
I'm getting all sweaty.
Getting all worked up. Sorry. Next question comes from Magispit through Paizo, and he asks, are there any rules as written that you don't like?
There's a few. First, let me kind of talk about one that kind of spans all editions.
Sure.
And this would be grappling. I don't know what the deal is.
I don't know what it is about grappling.
Nobody understands grappling. If you think you understand how to grapple, I don't care what edition you're playing, you don't understand how to grapple.
It's like quantum physics.
It is like quantum physics.
Anybody who says they understand it doesn't understand it.
If you take the time to look into the rules, you have just interfered with the experiment, and it is not going to... turn out the way the experiment should have gone. So
what you think the rules are never what they are when you observe them.
Right. So it's like a 10-foot pole's constant.
Oh, God.
That was I'm not sure if that joke landed or what. I'm going to leave it in. Anyway, so grappling has always been just this thing that's been really, really confusing. Way more confusing than any of the equivalent combat maneuvers.
Sure.
And so every time, I swear, in the 15 years that I've played D&D, every time someone utters the 7-letter word grapple, 6-letter word grapple. No, 7-letter word. I was right. If someone has uttered the word grapple, however many letters it may be, immediately the game comes to a grinding halt.
Right.
Everyone has to take out their player's handbook, flip around for 30 seconds until they eventually decide to just flip to the glossary to look up what page grappling is on. Then they go back to the page that grappling is on. And then everyone has to take another 30 seconds to read the 4 paragraphs about grappling. And then you get 3 different interpretations of what that means.
Right. I can't remember. I want to say it was one of the introduction videos to 4th edition. They made it like Wizards made a joke about it.
Yeah.
Like they basically were like, D&D through the years, and they showed a bunch of people playing first edition, second edition. They got the third edition and said, all right, I grapple him, and everyone, and they all pull out a book and slam it on the table and start pouring through the pages. And it's like, it's so like, and even though they're aware of it, it's like, it's never really made, but it is sort of, it's a complicated thing because it's not like you're grappling somebody, but they're going to be grappling you too. And like, so it's like both people are involved, but it's like a fight for who's in control. And then like it depends. And then there's all the little modifiers, like is this, size modifiers. And like if they have extra arms or something, there's all these other rules for it.
Yeah. There's so many.
It's way more complicated than I swing a sword at you. Oh, you have a shield, so it's harder to hit you.
Right. And it's like, okay, well, I made my grapple roll on the defense. Now I'm going to make a grapple roll on the offense. If I succeed, then I can make another grapple roll to try to escape.
Right.
But if I fail, I didn't escape, but I'm still grappled. But I'm not pinned.
Trying to figure out what the rules of grappling are to me are like when I play like card games, like casino card games, is where it's like I don't quite understand all the rules. I don't know when it's my turn to do this and that. Yeah. And then everybody gets mad at me because they're trying to win money or something like that. Sure. It's frustrating. And then there's like prestige classes in third edition, I remember, that were all about grappling. I'm like, why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah, there were prestige classes for just about anything. There was one that it let you do something with telekinesis that you could already do with telekinesis. Oh my god! It let you like throw people upwards. That was like the big ability you got at the end, and it's like there's nothing in the telekinesis description that says you can't already do that.
Was that the one with the picture? Where the picture was just like boots?
Yes, boots, and then a guy like this, like holding his hand up, and there's
like I just never understood that picture for the longest time until I actually read it. I just thought it was like what? Why is he making giant boots? Because like the boots are in the foreground and they're empty. The idea is like, like the guy is like lifting a guy out of his boots into the air. And like, but like it just, at first glance, it's just this guy going, ha, like he's casting a spell up in the air. Right. And there's just this huge pair of boots in front of him. I'm like, what?
Now I want to make a character whose special abilities he creates giant boots.
Giant boots. Yeah. Like
it's like Big B's bustin' boot. So aside from, so one more thing about grappling, I think it's interesting that, 4th edition, and I could be wrong, but I believe 5th edition did away with disarming and sundering. Maybe those are still in 5th edition, but they were not in 4th edition.
Okay.
Grappling, still there.
Yeah.
Tripping is still there because I think tripping is so much simpler and so much easier to just do.
Sure, because I mean, there's already rules for being prone and things like that.
Tripping someone is so much easier to do and so much easier to come back from. Right. Whereas destroying someone's weapon, that's a big deal, and like that has a lot of after combat repercussions that a lot of people don't like.
And I understand that in something like 4th edition, where like the equipment was just as important as your class abilities.
That's what all of your abilities went off of. Is like, if you're a fighter, I have to have a weapon in order to. I have to have this specific weapon in order to do all the stuff.
Right.
So like, but grappling's still there. Yeah, still there.
Yeah.
So aside from grappling, there are some other things. I remember one time Jay was telling us about the concept of proud nails.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I do remember.
A proud nail is a term that refers to, let's say you're building a house, and there's a lot that goes into building a house, and once you're done and you're living in the house that you built, you start to notice all of these little tiny things that you did wrong. Like you noticed, there's that nail that isn't quite all the way in, but because of maybe like it's in a weird position, you can't hammer it in the last little bit. So instead you just kind of like, when nobody's looking, bump it with a hammer so it's just like bent over to the side so it's less noticeable. Mm-hmm. So a proud nail is when you're creating a game like D&D with a ton of rules and you end up with like those one or two little things that really aren't very good, but it's too late to fix them.
Right.
So all you can really do is just kind of like shove it under the rug and hope nobody really pays attention to it.
So it's your pride getting the best of you. Where like you're too.
Yeah. I didn't even put that together. That makes a lot of sense.
Right. Yeah. You're too prideful about the work that you've done to like want to bring up this mistake that you made.
Exactly, yeah. So there were a lot of these in 3rd edition. A lot of the alchemical items in 3rd edition were considered proud nails.
Sure.
Like the Tanglefoot bag.
Tanglefoot bag, yeah.
It was this super cheap thing that, like, it did not operate by any of the same rules as anything else in the game. It's like you throw this thing and then, like, if you hit their touch AC, they're like pinned to the floor or something. And it was just like, if someone wanted to, they could super abuse this. I hope nobody does.
Right. Well, because it's such like a mundane item that like you only ever look at when you're first creating a character.
Exactly,
so like in a lot of cases, people aren't going to use it much. But I think I remember building a character that was trying to make like a Green Arrow sort of situation where I was like...
Have a Tanglefoot bag on the end of an arrow.
Exactly. It's like, I mean, this thing is crazy, like powerful for, the amount of money you're spending on it. Like you can buy several of them, with a first level character's budget.
Yeah.
It has some like unique and weird rules to it that like nothing else has. Like a 5th level spell can't do what this thing does. In some cases.
Yeah. That's a good point. So aside from that, there is one thing I want to talk about. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I will run away and never come back on this issue.
Everybody hold on.
So I recently got Volo's Guide to Monsters. I also got the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, which I think is a really cool book because it's only a small amount of it is mechanics. Most of it is lore. Mm-hmm. There's even there's some character options that don't have mechanics to them. It's just like, you can be a part of this bardic college. There's no mechanics. It's just you can be a part of this bardic college.
Sure.
And, that's kind of cool. I like the idea of that. But
something that ties you into the campaign.
Right. But there is an alternate ability in there for tieflings. Mm-hmm. One of the abilities that tieflings get in the player's handbook, it's called Infernal Legacy, I believe. When at first level, starts you off with a cantrip. Thaumaturgy, which is like prestidigitation, but it's divine. So you can create small visual effects, small audio effects. You can make the earth shake a little bit or something, little non-combat effects.
Right.
That's what you get at first level. At 3rd level gives you a once per day use of a 1st level spell, Hellish Rebuke, which is, once again, once per day. If someone hits you, you can automatically deal some damage back to them.
Okay.
Then at 5th level, you get a once per day use of the spell Darkness, which, is kind of a utility spell. Could be a buff, could be a debuff.
Yeah.
It affects you just like it affects anybody else. Basically, you create an area of magical darkness you can use to hide, but also you can't see through it, so it can be bad for you. So it's a very, very situational spell.
Yeah.
So tieflings, right off the bat, they get this one ability that encompasses 3, I would say, very underpowered spells, all of which are very limited in use.
Right.
So there's the cantrip, which doesn't do anything in combat, and then 2 once per day spells.
Sure.
In the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, you can trade in Infernal Legacy. So those 3 spells, you can trade them in for wings.
Okay.
The ability to fly non-magically with a speed of 30 feet at will. There is no limitation on this.
Uh-huh.
Now, I just want to cut off a lot of these people who are going to be listening and be like, oh, no to you. I know what you are going to say in response. There are 2 responses that I have gotten time and time again in response to whether or not players should be allowed to fly at first level. Mm-hmm. People always say the same 2 things, and they are the same 2 terrible arguments. The first is, if you're flying in combat, ranged archers are going to target that character. No, duh. Don't use it in combat then.
Yeah.
Or
it's at will. It's not mandatory.
Or how about this? Only use it when there aren't archers. Not every encounter is going to have archers. D&D is more than combats with archers.
Sure.
Am I right? Yeah, a well-balanced encounter should have some kind of ranged component, but not every encounter is going to be the same.
Right. Even just a group of bandits, if none of them are archers, they might have a crossbow on them, but they're probably not going to be very good at it, or they might not have a high dexterity or something.
Even
if
they do, okay. So that encounter with those bandits did. What about the encounter with a bunch of displacer beasts? What about the freaking Tarrasque? The freaking Tarrasque has no ranged attack. So you cannot tell me, the downside to flying is that it makes you a target to ranged characters. Well, what if there aren't any ranged characters? Or, Again, just don't use it if it's going to be a detriment. The fact that you're not using it in combat doesn't mean that you don't have it the other 99% of the time. So that's number one. Number one is, ranged enemies are going to target them. I understand that's not a downside. That's just how the game works. And then number two, small corridors in dungeons make flying less useful. Yeah, I know. No duh. Then don't use it when it's not going to be a benefit. Like, okay, Jeff, let me ask you this.
Sure.
What percentage of your time playing D&D has been either small corridors or fights with archers?
I mean, not all of it, but...
I mean, maybe a significant amount.
A decent
maybe
amount.
25%?
Sure.
30%?
Maybe like a third of the time.
Let's be generous. Let's say 50%. Okay. 50% of the time, this ability is just a base not useful. It's not a detriment because you don't have to be using it. It just isn't a benefit. Oh no, one of your abilities you don't get to use half the time. Oh no.
That's most of my abilities in any of my characters. Like I'm always picking abilities that sound really cool and are going to be awesome in every situation. Nope, I maybe used it once.
Well, okay. Here's my issue with this ability. Being able to fly at will from first level, it's not going to ruin a game. It might maybe sometimes. In some situations, maybe it could.
Okay.
It's probably not going to ruin your game. You're probably not going to have a terrible experience because of it. Although I do want to point out, imagine being the player sitting next to the guy who can fly from first level.
Sure.
And just having so many fewer options than this guy. But regardless, that's not my issue. My issue is it is power creep of the worst kind.
Yeah, and it's in like the first...
It is like in the second non-core, non-adventure book that has come out for 5th edition.
Right, yeah.
Like what you are giving up for this ability is in no way equal to what you are getting. Any option that you give up something less than you get is a bad game design.
Sure, yeah.
I have a huge issue with power creep. I know why power creep exists. When a book comes out, they want to sell that book, so they put something in that is better than what was out before, so that people have a reason to buy it, a reason to give them money, which is a reason for them to make more books. It is not the worst thing I understand why it exists.
Yeah,
but
it's there for a reason.
But I hate it.
Yeah.
Because if this book comes out where first level characters can fly at will, someone else is going to come out with a book where, maybe first level characters can do this other thing that's better than flying. It's only a little bit better than flying.
Yeah, they can
we
teleport.
We want this book to be better than the book before, so we got to make it just a little bit better so people will buy it. And then you end up with like 3rd edition, where if you bought any of the books near the end of 3rd edition's run, you would completely mop the floor with what came before. If you made a character from the Book of Nine Swords and fought against a vanilla fighter, the Book of Nine Swords character would win 100% of the time.
Sure.
And I'm not saying Book of Nine Swords is bad, but the idea behind it is something that should be avoided at all costs. If you want your game to be long-lived, you should avoid power creep every chance you get.
Yeah, at the very least, if you're going to have power creep, which I understand, there's a reason it's there, and it's understandable.
It's understandable. I still don't like it.
You should do it slowly and not in the second supplemental book that you release.
Here's the thing. So there's been a lot of 5th edition adventures like pre-written adventures that have come out.
Right, yeah, okay.
And in some of those, they do introduce new character options. That's fine. I can understand that. Apparently, I don't own it, but apparently one of the books has another race in it that can fly from first level. It's called the Arakakra. It's a race of bird people or something.
Oh, okay.
From what I understand, again, because I don't own this other book. From what I understand, the Arakakra race is notably underpowered, aside from the fact that they can fly. There is also a special disclaimer in the book saying, DMs, be aware that this is a powerful ability. You might not be equipped to handle it.
Yeah, because when you think about first level adventures, a lot of them can be completely made very trivial by flight.
Right.
Like, because a lot of first like low level adventures involve like pit traps and things like that. Something that is going to be very difficult for a low level character to get around, because at that point you're not throwing them giant monsters at them so much as you are, giving them more obstacles that they have to get over, because they don't have that third level spell that allows them to levitate for, however many.
Right. And I mean, I said in a previous episode that if your adventure is trivialized or is ruined by a player being able to get somewhere they weren't supposed to get, it probably wasn't a very good adventure. I do still stand by that. I'm not saying that that's not true. If your adventure is ruined by a character being able to fly, it probably wasn't very good. Again, that's not my issue. I like I said, having the ability to fly at first level is probably not going to ruin the game.
Sure.
That doesn't mean it should be there. Fly is a third level spell. You have to be 5th level before you can fly. Fly is not a cantrip. It was not a first level option until the Arakocra and the Tiefling alternate ability came out. Now, sorry, one more thing about the Arakocra. So I said that there's a specific disclaimer saying that, this is a powerful ability. Be aware of what you're doing, DMs.
Right.
The Sword Coast Adventurers Guide does not have that. Now, of course, there's the guy that's going to say, the DM is the final arbiter of that. No, that is a cop-out. I am paying for a book under the assumption that the options inside will not require additional work to make happen.
Right, exactly.
I'm not paying you to write a book that I then have to write myself.
Right. Yeah, we're buying these books because we're expecting them to do the balancing for us.
Exactly.
Like we're here to play the game. We're not here to make it.
Now, of course, there's going to have to be some tweaking.
Sure. Yeah, and
that's the game.
Yeah, that's part of it. Is like you make your own adventure, but like
it should at least work on paper before it makes it into the book.
Sure.
So it's just it's frustrating that this ability exists. And it's frustrating that people defend it. It's bad game design. That's not the end of the world. There's been bad game design forever.
Yeah.
But you should not defend bad game design. You should say, okay, it's bad. How can we make the best of it?
Right. This shouldn't be taken lightly. It's
right.
Just
so sorry. I get very passionate about this.
That's fine.
So that is a rule as written that I do not like.
All right. Our next question comes from Kai, again on Reddit, and she asks, how would I go about enacting a secret plan between myself and the DM?
I've always been a fan of notes, passing notes between the DM and the players, or even heck, between the players and the players, if you just want to kind of keep something secret.
Yeah.
There's actually something we've had some fun at our tables involving passing notes.
I mean, there was the time that I was a doppelganger, and I think Steve and Jay were kind of getting in on it, and like we're passing notes to each other or something like that.
And so then I wrote, because I saw Jay and Steve were passing notes and they were having a good time. So I thought, well, I want to be a part of this. So I wrote on a piece of paper. I was like, act like this is funny, and then I handed it to Jeff.
So K-Man hands me like I definitely see what he's doing. He's just like, I was like, all right, I'm gonna write a note then. Like, here, take that. And I look at it. It says something like just like laugh at it or something. And I just start laughing.
And then Jay and Steve are like, whoa, what is that? What is that? Let us see. And they start coming over. They start trying to like bug Jeff to see what the note was. And so then, Jeff, what did you do?
I ate it.
He ate the note.
He stuffed it in my mouth.
He crumpled up the note, stuffed it in his mouth, and
the note that said nothing.
Yes. And a good time was had by all. So yeah, I like.
I didn't swallow it.
So I like passing notes. I think it can be fun. It definitely has its use when you do it. Other players are going to know what's happening. They're going to know something is happening. Mm-hmm. But I mean, they're not going to know what. That's why I like to use decoy notes as we just described.
Right. Yeah. It makes for a fun time.
Yeah. You can also, like, if you ever have to, just kind of take the player into the other room for a minute.
Sure.
Yeah. If you have to.
If it has to be, if it's something that you need to go into great detail with.
Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe like you need input back from the player.
Yeah.
Then you can get a little bit of that.
Yeah, rather than going back and forth with notes for several minutes, like that. That's something that's going to halt the game. And like, yes, taking somebody else into the other room is going to halt the game, but at the very least, you can get a lot of you can get a lot more done in a shorter amount of time. If you're going to
have to halt the game, do that so you can just get it over and done with,
right?
And
sure.
then be done.
Yeah.
I remember there was a long time ago. I found online, there was some guy had made what he called the ultimate gaming table. Now, nowadays, if you put an ultimate gaming table into Google, you'll bring up like 10 million results.
Oh yeah, there's like there's plenty of videos online too of people making these things too, and it's fun to watch just because people get really crafty with it.
Right. I'll try to see if I can find this exact one, but
sure.
The guy had like individual walled off sections for each player so they could put all their notes and stuff. And then like the battle mat was up on like a raised platform in between everybody. And then the DM had these little chutes these little ramps that he could roll a ball. He had a little metal ball. He could roll it to a specific player. So he had like, I don't know, 5 or 6 holes in his station. He could put a note in a ball, put it in the hole that was assigned to player number 4. It would roll to player number 4's section. It would go straight to that player. He could open it up, see what the note is, and then he had a hole. He could roll it back.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, it was really neat.
Like, other players are going to know that you're giving them a note.
Right, they're going to hear the rolling ball.
You know, but hey, like, still, they won't know what's in it.
Yeah. And you can always just keep, like, a collection of, like, just random compliments or something that you can be. So, like, when you issue a note to somebody, you give everybody one. And, like, it might just be like, oh, your hair looks good today. Oh, thanks. You know? Whereas, like, you know, player number 3 is actually getting a note that says, oh, yeah, you've been charmed by the vampire or whatever.
I was going to say, or it says, like, you've been brought into the Dark Brotherhood. You now get to kill a PC. Oh, thanks.
Thanks. or like the Dark... Shoot, is it the Brotherhood in Elder Scrolls?
I think I was inadvertently referencing them.
Yeah. It's or it's just a note with a black hand on it.
Yeah, so
it says we know.
So if it's something at the game table that you need to get across, notes I think are the best way. Again, everybody's going to know that you're passing a note, but they won't know what's in it, and that's not a problem.
There's no easy way to make it like super secret.
Yeah.
Like, you know, unless everybody's got their phone number and you can like text them and they can be like, oh, sorry, this is from my mom or something, you know, whatever.
Right. But then that's encouraging people to use their phone at the table.
That's adding more distractions and taking away from the game and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, like, it's easy to understand that, like, okay, there are going to be some things that's only going to be between one player and the DM. Like, that's going to happen from time to time.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to metagame in those situations where it's like, oh, wait. Is he getting like possessed or something? And you're going to be suspicious of that person the whole time.
Right.
So,
and I do want to encourage, if you are going to do something like this, try not to, if you're the DM, try not to favor one player over another.
Sure.
Try to spread that out. Cause like, you know, you don't want to, it's always difficult when like there's the one player that is constantly, the DM is constantly like doing individual stuff with them. Even if it's not taking up time at the game table, it still can be a problem when you feel like the DM is giving way more attention to somebody else.
Right, yeah. You get that like sort of even if it's not actually that, it's like the playing favorite sort of thing. It's like you don't want to feel left out in too many cases.
Right. That's another example why I think smaller groups are better, because you can give every player the same amount of attention, and you know, it's cool. Everybody's getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little bit off balance, you know, it's less likely that people will feel slighted.
Right.
All right. Well, I think that will do it for today. To submit items and questions, email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, a running list of questions asked, and important links, or to download the episode, go to interpartyconflict.blogspot.com, where we have a link to our SoundCloud page. Find our Facebook page, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, or our subreddit at reddit.com/r/interpartyconflict for weekly discussion questions from me. We're also on Twitter at InPartyConflict, and we're on iTunes, Google Play Music, and Stitcher. Please rate, review, and subscribe. We really appreciate it. I'm also going to be trying to find a way to put us on YouTube.
Oh, sure.
Because one of my wife Lisa's friends, for some reason, will only listen to it if it's on YouTube. So this is for you, Betty. I'm going to try to find a way to make it work.
I get that. I understand that.
Yeah. So hopefully within the next week or so, we'll have all of our episodes up on YouTube.
Cool.
And our intro outro music is Inspiration by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. And our Dragon's Horde music is also from Nameless the Hackers RPG, but its name escapes me at the time, so catch up on it next time. So I think that will do it for today. I have been Gabe.
And I'm Jeff.
Keep on keeping on.
Beautiful.
So a little bit more I want to say about flying at first level. I'm sorry. I just had to get back into this. There's some stuff I forgot to say. So,
oh my goodness.
The organized play in 5th edition has expressly forbidden flying at first level. If you play in, I think it's called like the Adventurers League or something, if you you cannot play a character, either an Arakocra or a Tiefling with the Wings ability. You cannot play a character that has flight at first level. You just can't. Just as a blanket statement, either because it's too powerful or because it's too hard to adjudicate or whatever. I think that is a great example of why I am not crazy for thinking that you shouldn't be able to fly at first level. Also, I just don't understand why they didn't make it so that it scales as you do.
Right.
Why not make it that at first level you can only fly for like a couple rounds at a time.
Sure.
And then maybe at 3rd level you can fly for like a minute at a time, and then at 5th level you can fly forever.
Yeah, I mean, like it would go together with the thing that you're trading it out for.
Exactly.
Like you're getting this little ability, then you're getting a slightly better one a couple levels later, and then you're getting a slightly better one a couple levels later.
Seriously, like who at first level is going to say, I would rather have a non-combat cantrip than unlimited non-magical flight?
Yeah, it's like yes, you're trading darkness and whatever the heck the other one was, but you're getting flight from the beginning.
Exactly. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I've played plenty of characters that were underpowered. I'm not saying that you have to play the most powerful option possible. But if you are giving up nothing, effectively nothing,
right,
for a super powerful ability, you have to go in knowing that you are willingly not going to take this super powerful ability in exchange for effectively nothing. Mm-hmm. My issue is less that it is too powerful and more that it is not balanced.
Right. Because if you have that option, you're gonna want to take it, and if the DM says no, you can't do that, you're gonna resent the DM.
Yeah,
because he's not giving you the option that was printed in this book that is officially printed in a Wizards of the Coast book.
To be fair, it is listed as an optional rule.
Sure.
I know, everybody at home, don't go and point that out. I know it's an optional rule. But again, I'm paying for this book under the assumption that the options within, optional or otherwise, are balanced. Mm-hmm. If it's not going to be balanced, which some of the things are not, oftentimes there will be a disclaimer. For example, in Volo's Guide to Monsters, there's a lot of monster races, and there's a big disclaimer in there saying some of these are not balanced with player races. Mm-hmm. Know what you're doing, DM. The Sword Coast Adventurers Guide does not have that.
Right. And if you go back to, it was like Races of the Wild in 3rd edition, there was the Raptoran who had wings, but they weren't able to fly until
I want to say 5th or 6th level.
Yeah, it wasn't until much later.
Yeah,
that they were able to fly, and it wasn't even it wasn't great maneuverability or anything like that. It was I think it was poor.
That's yet another thing. So unless it's in one of the non-core books, like unless it's in one of the adventure books, there aren't rules on maneuverability in 5th edition. I've looked in the Player's Handbook. I've looked in the Monster Manual. I've looked in the Dungeon Master's Guide. I've not found any rules on maneuverability. There have been people who have said like, oh, well, you can make it so that if they get hit in combat, they have to make a concentration check, or their maneuverability isn't going to be very good. They're not going to be able to hover. Okay, where are those in the rules? Because
your those are nerd voice.
Those are house rules, buddy. I don't want to pay for a book that necessitates house rules.
Sure.
I'm gonna make whatever house rules I want. You don't have to tell me that. You can't use the assumption of house rules as a balancing factor. That's not what a balancing factor is. This is gonna be our angriest episode. I'm sorry, everybody. Okay, I think that's it. I'm done. I'm done.
Are you gonna cut that into the before?
I'll
figure it out.
I'll figure
because I have a good closer.
Okay, go for it, Jeff.
And until next time, keep your feet on the ground.
I hate you, Jeff.